The morning mist clung low over the plain of Marathon. From the sea, hundreds of ships cut through the gray horizon like a moving forest of masts. The earth trembled beneath disciplined footsteps. Bronze flashed under the rising sun. The greatest empire the world had ever known had arrived. In the year 490 BCE, the mighty Achaemenid Empire stood unmatched. From the Indus Valley to the edges of Egypt, from the mountains of Anatolia to the deserts of Mesopotamia, one name ruled supreme: Darius I. And now, his gaze had turned west, toward a small, stubborn city-state called Athens. This is the story of the day a handful of citizen soldiers faced the unstoppable. This is the story of the Battle of Marathon. The spark of defiance. The conflict did not begin at Marathon. It began years earlier, in 499 BCE, when Greek cities in Asia Minor rose against Persian rule in what history calls the Ionian Revolt. Athens, though small compared to Persia, made a fateful decision. She sent ships and soldiers to aid the rebels. It was a bold act, a reckless act. The revolt was crushed by 493 BCE, but the damage had been done. Darius did not forget. Legend says he ordered a servant to whisper to him every day at dinner, "Master, remember the Athenians." Revenge was not enough. Darius sought submission. Greece would bow or burn. Persia moves west. In 492 BCE, a new campaign into Greece was launched under General Mardonius. Storms wrecked the fleet. The expedition failed, but the empire did not stop. 2 years later, in 490 BCE, a new invasion force was assembled under the command of Datis and Artaphernes. Their mission was clear: punish Athens, subdue Greece. The Persian fleet crossed the Aegean Sea, island by island, falling into submission. Then they reached the coast of Attica. They landed at a place called Marathon, a wide, flat plain ideal for cavalry. It was the perfect battlefield. Athens stands alone. When news reached Athens, panic spread. The Persian army may have numbered between 20 and 30,000 men: archers, infantry, cavalry, professionals hardened by years of imperial conquest. Athens could muster only around 10,000 hoplites, citizen soldiers, farmers, blacksmiths, merchants, men who fought not for pay, but for their homes. They sent a runner, Pheidippides, to Sparta, begging for aid. He covered nearly 240 kilometers in 2 days. Sparta agreed to help, but religious observances delayed them. Athens would have to face Persia alone. Almost alone. The small city of Plataea sent 1,000 men, a gesture of loyalty that would echo through history. The man with the plan. At Marathon, the Athenian army was led by 10 generals, one from each tribe. Among them was a man whose name would become legend: Miltiades. Miltiades understood something critical. If they waited behind Athens' walls, the Persians could land elsewhere. If they allowed the Persians to use cavalry freely, they would be destroyed. The only chance was immediate attack. But the generals were divided. The Polemarch, the war archon, Callimachus, persuaded him. They would fight. The dawn of destiny, September 490 BCE. On a morning in September 490 BCE, the Athenian army formed ranks. The hoplites stood shoulder to shoulder, shields overlapping. Each carried a heavy bronze shield, a long spear, and a short sword. Their formation was called the phalanx. Miltiades made a daring move. He deliberately weakened the center of the line and strengthened the wings. It was a gamble. If the center broke too quickly, Persia would split them in half. But if the wings held, the trap would close. the charge that shook the world. Then, something happened that stunned both armies. The Athenians charged. Across nearly 1.5 kilometers of open ground, in full armor, they ran. Why? To minimize exposure to Persian archers. Arrows darkened the sky. Bronze clashed with wicker shields. The Persian center, composed of elite troops, pushed back the weakened Greek center. For a moment, it seemed over. But on the flanks, the Athenian wings smashed through Persian lines. Then, they turned inward. The Persian army was enveloped. Panic spread. Men stumbled toward the sea. The once invincible army of Darius was breaking. Chaos at the shore. The battle turned into a rout. Persian soldiers fled to their ships. Athenians pursued relentlessly. In the chaos, Callimachus was killed fighting near the ships, his body pierced with arrows. But the victory was decisive. According to ancient sources, Persia lost around 6,400 men. Athens lost only 192. Even if exaggerated, the difference was staggering. The plain of Marathon was littered with the fallen of an empire. A race against fate. But the danger was not over. The Persian fleet could still sail around Cape Sunion and attack Athens directly while the army remained at Marathon. The Athenians had to move fast. They marched the entire distance, roughly 40 kilometers, back to Athens in full armor. When the Persian fleet arrived and saw the Athenian army already in position, they hesitated. Then they turned back. Athens was saved. The legend of the Marathon. Later legend tells that Pheidippides, after running from Marathon to Athens to announce victory, cried out, "Rejoice, we conquer!" and then collapsed, dead from exhaustion. Whether myth or truth, his story gave birth to the modern marathon race, 26.2 miles. But beyond legend, the reality was even greater. Marathon proved something the world had never seen. An empire could be defeated. Why Marathon changed history. The victory at Marathon in 490 BCE did more than save Athens. It preserved the fragile experiment of Athenian democracy. Without Marathon, there may have been no golden age of Athens, no Pericles, no Socrates, no Plato, no Aristotle. The cultural and philosophical foundations of Western civilization might have been extinguished before they fully formed. But history did not end there. Darius would die in 486 BCE. His son, Xerxes I, would return 10 years later with a force far larger than before, and Greece would once again stand on the edge of annihilation. At Battle of Thermopylae, at Battle of Salamis, at Battle of Plataea. But Marathon was first. Marathon was proof. The psychology of courage. Imagine standing there. You are a farmer. You see tens of thousands of soldiers from lands you've never heard of. You know their empire spans continents. You know retreat means slavery for your family. And still, you run toward them. That is Marathon. Not just a battle, a statement. Freedom was worth dying for. The aftermath. In Athens, the fallen 192 were buried in a mound on the battlefield, the Soros. No grand tombs, no towering monuments, just earth over heroes. Their names were remembered, their courage became legend. Persia would return, but the myth of Persian invincibility was shattered forever on that plain. Final reflection. History often turns on the edge of a sword. In 490 BCE, on a dusty plain near the Aegean Sea, the fate of civilizations hung in balance. 10,000 men chose to charge. They did not know they were shaping the future. They did not know their stand would echo across 2,500 years. They only knew this: Behind them stood their homes. Before them stood an empire, and they ran. The Battle of Marathon was not just a Greek victory. It was the day ordinary men proved that courage could defy destiny. And sometimes that is enough.